The fluorescent lights of the downtown diner flickered like a dying heartbeat at 2:17 a.m., and in the corner booth sat a woman whose hands shook so violently she could barely tear the single grilled cheese sandwich into 3 equal pieces. Her 2 children, one boy with a mop of curls that hadn't seen shampoo in days, one girl clutching a threadbare unicorn, watched every motion with the stillness of soldiers awaiting orders. When the mother finally slid the plate forward, the boy whispered, "You first, Mama," and the girl added, "We're not that hungry," even though their stomachs growled loud enough to drown the jukebox. Across the room, a man in a charcoal coat worth more than the diner itself lowered his phone, the screen still glowing with stock market green. He had come here to escape the silence of his penthouse, not to witness hunger wearing a child's face. But the moment the mother kissed the crust of bread as if it were communion and passed it to her son, something inside the billionaire cracked open like a safe he'd forgotten the combination to. If you're already blinking back tears, smash that like button now and subscribe with notifications on, because what this stranger did next will wreck you in the best way. Her name was Lena Marquez, 32 going on 60, and the only thing keeping her spine straight was the memory of her own mother's voice. Pride feeds no one, Mija, but love feeds forever. She had once been the assistant manager at a boutique hotel, the kind where guests tipped in hundreds and smiled like she mattered. Then the layoffs came, then the eviction, then the night her ex texted, "I can't," and vanished with the rent money. Now she waitressed the graveyard shift at the very diner where she once splurged on milkshakes for birthdays. The owner, Mr. Patel, let her bring the kids on slow nights because he, too, had once been a father hiding children in the walk-in cooler during immigration raids. Tonight the tip jar held 3 singles and a coupon for tires. 1 sandwich, 3 mouths. Math had never felt crueler. The boy, Mateo, was 8 and already understood sacrifice the way other kids understood Pokemon cards. He took the smallest triangle, nibbling the corner so his sister, Sofia, 6, could have the melted center. Sofia tried to give her piece back. "I had crackers at school," but Lena's eyes filled so fast the girl stopped mid-sentence. Outside, rain slashed the windows like accusations. Inside, the billionaire, Alexander Voss, 35, founder of a logistics empire that moved everything except his own heart, watched the scene unfold in the reflection of his untouched coffee. He recognized the choreography, the forced smiles, the strategic bites, the way hope shrinks to fit the plate. 25 years ago that had been him, splitting a single happy meal with his little sister in a laundromat parking lot while their mother worked doubles. He had sworn he would never again be powerless. Yet here he was, powerless to look away. Alexander stood. The vinyl booth squeaked. Every head turned, 2 truckers, a nurse on break, Mr. Patel wiping the same spot on the counter for the 3rd time. Lena braced for trouble. Strangers only approached when they wanted something. But Alexander removed his coat, folded it once, and laid it on the counter like surrendering a weapon. He walked to their table, boots silent on the linoleum. "Ma'am," he said, voice low enough that only they heard, "I wonder if you'd let me buy your family the rest of the menu." Lena's instinct was to refuse. Charity tasted like pity, but Sofia's eyes went saucer-wide at the word menu, and Mateo whispered, "Mama," he said pancakes. The billionaire added quickly, "No obligation. Just. I was hungry once. I know the shape of it." Mr. Patel, sensing a miracle the way sailors sense storms, was already flipping bacon before anyone answered. Alexander slid into the booth opposite them, careful not to crowd. He asked their names the way a collector asks about rare art, slow, reverent. Lena told him, then braced for the follow-up questions that never came. Instead he asked Mateo what subject he liked in school, science, because volcanoes are honest, and Sofia what the unicorn's name was, Mr. Fluffernutter, Esquire. 10 minutes later the table looked like a breakfast apocalypse, stacks of pancakes drowning in syrup, eggs sunny side up, hash browns crisp enough to snap, milk in real glasses, orange juice in a carafe because why not? The children ate like they were afraid the food might vanish mid-bite. Lena managed 3 forkfuls before tears ambushed her. Alexander pretended not to notice, focusing on buttering a 4th pancake for Sofia. When the plates were empty and the kids' eyelids began to droop, Alexander signaled Mr. Patel for the check. The old man slid it over, $42.86. Alexander peeled off 500s and told him to keep the change for the next family who needed it. Then he looked at Lena. I have a proposition. My company's headquarters is 10 minutes away. We have a daycare that runs 24/7 for night shift parents. It's free for employees. I'm short a night concierge, someone trustworthy to greet guests, answer phones, make coffee. The shift starts at 11, ends at 7. Comes with benefits. And an apartment. 2 bedrooms. On site. He said it all in one breath, like ripping off a bandage. Lena laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. You don't even know if I can brew coffee. Alexander smiled for the first time all night. I watched you divide one sandwich into 3 perfect triangles. I trust your math. She wanted to say no, people like him didn't rescue people like her without strings. But Sofia was asleep against her shoulder, maple syrup in her hair, and Mateo was tracing the diner logo on the tablecloth with a finger that no longer trembled. Lena heard her mother's voice again, love feeds forever. Trial shift tomorrow, she asked. Alexander nodded. 11 sharp. I'll leave word with security. He stood, coat over his arm. At the door he paused. One more thing. The apartment's furnished, but it's missing kids' books. Any favorites? Mateo mumbled, Encyclopedia Brown. Sofia, half dreaming, added, anything with dragons. Alexander committed both to memory the way he once memorized IPO filings. The next 11 months unfolded like a time-lapse of spring. Lena started as concierge, then trained in guest services, then, because she noticed international clients struggling with language, proposed a translation app integrated into the check-in kiosks. Alexander funded the prototype. Within 90 days the app rolled out chain-wide, boosting 5-star reviews by 14%. Lena's salary tripled. The apartment filled with second-hand furniture painted bright colors, a bookshelf that groaned under the weight of dragons and detectives, and a jar on the counter labeled Rainy Days that never stayed empty. Mateo joined the robotics club, Sofia took ballet on Saturdays. They still ate at the diner every Friday, Mr. Patel refused to let them pay, but now they ordered for the whole late-night crew. Alexander kept his distance at first, terrified of becoming the rich guy who played savior for applause. But Lena cornered him in the elevator one night. You eat alone in the executive dining room every evening. That's ridiculous. Come to Friday dinner. The kids miss Mr. Fluffernutter, Esquire's new bodyguard. He showed up with a dragon puppet that breathed LED fire. The children screeched. Somewhere between the puppet show and the 3rd helping of mac and cheese, Alexander realized the crack in his chest had become a doorway. Then came the setback no one saw coming. Corporate raiders targeted Voss Logistics, spreading rumors of financial instability. Stock plummeted. Alexander spent nights on conference calls, voice hoarse, eyes red. Layoffs loomed. The daycare hours were slashed. Lena volunteered to cover the front desk and the daycare monitor shift, running on caffeine and stubbornness. One dawn, after a board meeting that felt like a funeral, Alexander found her asleep at the concierge desk, head on her arms, a half-finished email about cost-saving ideas glowing on the screen. He draped his coat over her shoulders, the same coat from the diner, and sat on the floor beside her chair. When she woke, he was still there. I'm scared, he admitted. I built this to prove I wasn't that kid in the laundromat anymore. If it fails, Lena touched the coat's lapel. You're still the man who bought 3 strangers pancakes. Companies rise and fall. People stay. Together they fought. Lena rallied the night staff into a task force. They mapped inefficiencies no algorithm had caught. Alexander listened, really listened, for the first time since business school. They presented the plan to the board: consolidate routes, renegotiate vendor contracts, launch a premium same-day service using Lena's translation app as the hook for international clients. The board approved. The stock stabilized. The raiders retreated. On the day the news broke, Alexander found Lena on the rooftop garden she'd convinced facilities to install for employees. The city sparkled below them like scattered coins. "We did it," he said. She corrected him, "You believed a diner waitress could think in millions." "That's what we did." Spring turned to summer. Mateo won first place in the regional science fair with a volcano powered by a delivery drone motor Alexander happened to have lying around. Sofia performed in her first recital. Alexander sat in the front row holding a bouquet so large it obscured the people behind him. Then came the night that rewrote every rule. Lena's mother, Abuela Rosa, flew in from San Diego for Sofia's 7th birthday. The party was held in the rooftop garden: string lights, piñata shaped like a delivery truck, a cake with sparklers. After the candles, Abuela pulled Alexander aside. "Mijo, my Lena is proud. Too proud sometimes. But she talks about you when she thinks no one hears. Be careful with her heart, it's been broken by men who promised tomorrow." Alexander swallowed. "I don't want to promise tomorrow. I want to build it with her." He waited until the kids were asleep in the guest room, Abuela snoring on the couch with Mr. Fluffernutter under her arm. Lena stood at the kitchen sink rinsing the last plate. Alexander took the sponge from her hand, dried his palms on a dish towel embroidered with tiny dragons. "I need to tell you something," he began, then stopped. Words felt suddenly cheap. Instead he reached into his pocket and pulled out the diner receipt from that first night. $42.86, $500 bills, Mr. Patel's looping scrawl across the bottom, "God bless." He had laminated it months ago. "I keep this to remember power isn't in the money. It's in choosing who you give it to." He turned the receipt over. On the back, in his own handwriting, was a new note: "Will you let me keep choosing you, every day, for the rest of our lives?" He got down on one knee right there between the fridge and the cookie jar. The ring was simple, white gold, a single diamond shaped like a tiny volcano. Lena's hands flew to her mouth. "Alex, say yes, and I'll spend every tomorrow proving I'm worthy of the woman who taught me hunger and hope share the same table." She said yes with a sob that turned into laughter when Mateo's voice floated from the hallway. "Does this mean we get to keep the dragon puppet forever?" Sofia added, "And pancakes for dinner on birthdays?" Alexander stood, pulling Lena close. "All the pancakes. All the dragons. All the tomorrows." A year later the diner hosted a different kind of gathering. Mr. Patel closed early, strung Christmas lights though it was June, pushed tables together into one long banquet. Every employee who'd been part of the turnaround was there: drivers, coders, janitors, the night security guard who taught Mateo chess. Abuela Rosa presided at the head, ladling pozole into bowls. Alexander stood on a chair, only way to be heard over the chatter, and raised a glass of horchata. To the woman who turned one sandwich into a feast that fed an entire company. Cameras flashed. Someone started a slow clap that turned into cheers. Lena, blushing, lifted Sofia onto her hip. And to the man who reminded us that billionaires are just people who forgot how to share until someone showed them the way. Outside, the city kept moving, trucks with Voss logos delivering everything from diapers to defibrillators, but inside the diner time paused. Mateo fed Mr. Patel's ancient cat a corner of grilled cheese. Sofia danced with the nurse from that first night, unicorn in one hand, dragon puppet in the other. Alexander and Lena slipped out to the alley where the dumpsters no longer smelled like despair. He leaned against the brick wall. "Remember when I thought success was never being hungry again? Lena traced the laminated receipt in his wallet, visible through the pocket of his jeans. Now we know success is making sure no one else ever has to be. They kissed under the flickering exit sign, the same one that had buzzed above their heads the night everything changed.